Welcome to the Learn to Sew Academy channel. Please remember to subscribe. Thank you.
Welcome to a new tutorial and thank you for tuning in again. In this tutorial, we're going to be drafting a princess cut blouse and we're going to just walk from the shoulder down to the half length, assuming if you're going to be using that as the top of a dress or peplon top. These are the measurements you'll need: the shoulder, the bust, the half length, bust point, bust span, and the waist measurements. The bust point is a measurement from your shoulder to the fullest part of the bust. The half length is the measurement from the shoulder to the waistline. And the bust span is a nipple to nipple measurement, which is why some will call it nipple to nipple, or you can also call it the apex. So we're going to start with the shoulder. The shoulder we're using in this sample is 16 inches. When we divide that by 2, we're going to have 8 inches, and of course you're going to add your allowance. I'm adding half an inch allowance here, and then I'm going to come down like this to 9 inches, but I'm going to be adding half an inch for the joining at the shoulder area, and over here is where I'm going to be doing the bust. So in this case, we're using a sample of 40 inches for the bust. We're going to divide that by 4, and that is going to give us 10. And then you're going to add whatever allowance that you want to add. So I'm going to be adding 1 inch allowance, which is right here. And what I'm doing here is just to make out the armhole. I have a video that explains in detail how to do the armhole. You can check that out in the description. So the next thing I want to do now is I want to measure my bust point. That is the shoulder to the fullest part of the bust. So in this example, we're going to use a bust point of 11. And of course, we're going to add half an inch for the joining right there at the top. So that's a bust point line. So I'm going to measure the half length next. So assuming we're using 17 inches plus the half at the top. And if you are going to be joining this to like a peplon or another part to make a dress, you're going to factor in that allowance. So you want to put an additional half an inch for that joining at the bottom as well. So this right here will be my half length, which is where the waist measurement goes. And this here is the bust point. So the next thing that's very important is to measure your bust span, which is the nipple to nipple, the apex, whatever you choose to call it. So let's assume we're having 8 inches for that. When you took the measurement, you had 8 inches. Because we have folded this into 2, you want to divide the 8 by 2. So you're going to have 4 inches. And then because you're going to be cutting this and rejoining it back, you want to put some allowance for joining it back. So we use half an inch for joining it back. So we're gonna say 4.5 right here. I'm going to come down to the waistline and I'll measure that 4.5 again. And now I connect it to the one at the bust point. So next what we're going to do is we're going to make the dot mark here, and you can do anything from 0.5 to 1 inch. So I'm just going to do 1. You can do 0.75. So I'm going to do 1 inch on both sides. And you want to join from there up here. Again, you can do less than 1 inch. It depends on how snug you want it to be around that area. And right here, you can also use your curve ruler to make like a curve right there. But when you're joining, you definitely want to make sure it curves in so that you don't have a pointy part right there, which we're going to do when we start to cut this. So on the waistline now, you want to measure the waist. So assuming we're using a waist of 36, you divide that by 4 because again you took a circumference. You went around the waist to measure the waist area. So we're going to say 36 divided by 4. That will give us 9. So when you measure your 9, remember you're taking away 1 inch here, 1 inch here. That's a total of 2 inches. You're going to factor that back in, because when you cut this, you have taken out 2 inches, or if you're using half an inch, you would have taken out half inch. So you want to factor that back in, and then you want to add your allowances on the side, and for joining the that area, and also for your side. So I'm just going to add 1.5, or you can do 2 inches, and then we're going to do the armhole. And what you want to do is you want to look for a midpoint. And like I said, I have a very detailed video on the armhole that can help you. And you just want to connect from here to that point. And you can also use a curve ruler if that will work better for you. So what you want to do now is you want to connect this to that point. Or if you don't want to do it all the way to the midpoint, you can also connect it to maybe like 1 inch from where you have your bust measurement. You can come up by 1 inch, and you can connect from there as well. It's totally dependent on you. So in this case, what you want to do is you just want to connect from here right up there. So that's what's going to form your princess cut, but you want to make sure that this is well rounded so that it's not pointy. And then the next thing will be to do the neckline, and you can do any style of neckline. You can do a boat neck, you can do a U-neck, you can do a V-neck. So for this neckline, let's do a 5 by 4. I'm just going to do the 4 down here as well. I'm going to do the 5 right here. And the next thing you do is you just want to connect from here. You want to connect it like that. And then the next thing we want to do here is we want to give it a shoulder slant. You can do 1/2 inch to 1 inch for your shoulder slant. The bust we used was 40, so it was 10 inches, and I added 1 inch for my joining, and now I'm gonna add an additional 1 inch or 1.5 inches, whatever you want to do. You had it additionally, and you just want to extend that for your seam allowance, because you must always remember to add in allowance for this joining of the princess cut and also for your seam allowance. So the next thing to do now is just to connect all those lines. Another thing that you can do is, if you want, you can also come here by 1/2 inch up this way, 1/2 inch up this way, and you can decide that you also want to cut that part out. Or you can do like 1/4 of an inch both ways, and you can decide that you're going to cut that part out as well. But in that case, you must remember to extend your armhole a little further, because you're taking away from that armhole. So you want to add more to your armhole if you decide to do this. So that's just another thing that you can do. If you wanted to shape at the top as well, you want to see that curve as well, you can also do like 1/4, 1/4, or 1/2 inch on both sides. But whatever it is that you have added, the sum of the two, you want to add it to your armhole before you cut. And then we're going to cut this right here. And this is what you're going to have. And again, if you wanted to cut that extra that I explained, you would just go ahead and cut that part, cut this part, and that will just shape it again on the upper part of the bust area. For the back, I'm going to do the shoulder, and then I'm going to do my 9 inches plus my allowance, and this is where we're going to form our armhole right here, just like we did for the front, and that's where we're going to measure for the bust, which was 10 inches, and we're just going to add 11 inches. Now for the back, you can either decide that you're going to cut these two for a princess cut, or you're not going to cut it. Those are the options. We have the bust point right here, plus the allowance at the top, and we have the half length, plus that same shoulder allowance that we spoke about when we're cutting the front. So right over here is where you measure for your bust plus your allowance right there, and then you measure your waist right here at the half length. So I'm going to do 9, plus there's going to be a 1 inch dart, that's half on each side, so that makes it 10, and then you're going to add whatever seam allowance, either 1 inch, 1.5, whatever you've decided to add. You add it to that, and then you join it up here, and then you cuff out your armhole. So now you measure that your bust span, that was 4 inches in our example here, plus half an inch, that gives us 4.5. We come down here and we do that 4.5 as well. And then this time around for the dart, we're just going to do half an inch on both sides. And this is what we're going to connect to our bust span right here. We're just going to connect it direct. Oh, excuse me. Before we do that, because this is the back dart, we're going to come up a little, like 1 inch to the top of the bust point. We're going to do like a 1 inch to the top right here, and it's from here, that's in 4.5 point. It's from there that will now connect all the way to the waistline. So this now will be a dart for the back. And if you want to still do like a princess cut here, then you just join it to your armhole over here. In that case, you have to add an additional to your bust line, because you're going to be joining this, and you have to extend your armhole. And then the neckline will be over here. And so that is just the difference. I do hope this video has been very helpful to you. Please be sure to leave this video a thumbs up. And if you haven't already, please remember to subscribe to this channel and click the bell for notifications. Thank you so much. Hope to see you in the next video. Bye.